question. I want to thank all our viewers for the really thoughtful questions that you've provided for us today. We've got Jane Baker from Massachusetts, and she's asking, what do you see as the biggest barrier to translating youth activism into actual votes? The youth turnout has historically been low.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And thanks for that, Jane. Um, I would say there's a couple of major obstacles. I think one of the first ones is that I think we may have even seen this, in the 1960s when there was a record, voter turnout with young people again, where people turned out and kind of eventually, in my view, although I wasn't alive at the time, so I can only speak so much on it. They turned out, and then Watergate happened, and a bunch of other stuff happened, and they kind of lost faith in the system, understandably, because it's like you turned out once, and there isn't that much that changed. So I think a big object for us making change is realizing it's not going to be Joe Biden or any single politician that's going to help us address all of these issues. It's going to have to be years of voting consistently and turning out at high levels to make sure that the priority of every policy that the United States government and state and local governments pass is the future of our country, and especially the young people that are going to be most affected by those policies. Secondly, I think a major obstacle that isn't talked about too is youth voter suppression is a huge problem. Even in Florida, and I believe in Parkland in 2018, I don't know I think it was about 15% of young people that voted by mail in Parkland had their votes thrown out. And one of those reasons, for example, in Florida, is that they know that there's a lot of older people that can vote by mail, or that vote by mail, for example, that tend to vote a more certain way, right? So they want to make sure that they're able to continue to vote. So one of the things that I believe that they did was they made this law that says that if your signature that you registered to vote with, so for example, I first registered to vote in Florida when I was, getting my driver's license as part of like a motor voter or whatever. And when I signed my signature, I thought I was signing a receipt, and it's a terrible, like basically unlegible signature. But if my signature on my absentee ballot doesn't match that signature that I registered to vote with, that ballot does not get counted and it gets thrown out, right? And they know that that is something that disproportionately affects younger people. At least in my case, who tend to vote, may tend to vote more progressive or vote against people that are in power. And so, yeah, we need to talk about youth voter suppression and the barriers that there already are to young people voting, especially when they live on college campuses or when they have to vote by mail.
Yeah, there are so many friction points that I think people don't even think about. So those were a lot of good points.